Hello and good morning everyone, and thank you for joining our Citrix webinar today. As we are joined here by David White from Aslan and LJ Martin from Citrix. So Bytes has been working with Citrix for over 10 years, and over that time we've built up a wealth of knowledge and a thorough understanding of the Citrix product portfolio. We're proud to be a Citrix Gold Solution Advisor, and throughout our partnership we've enabled many organisations to harness the benefits of Citrix platform technologies. So we have a dedicated team of Citrix licensing specialists who can help with POCs, design and implementation of new solutions, migrations and upgrades. So we have many promotions available, so please contact your Bytes account manager or fill out our feedback form at the end of the webinar if you would like more details on any of these. Okay, so I'm now going to pass you over to David White from Aslan.
Thanks, Amy, and thank you everybody for joining the webinar today. It's really great to have this opportunity to talk to you around what Citrix are doing over the coming 12 months and further forward as well. So just to kind of add to the introduction that Amy made there, I'm Dave White and I work for one of the UK's Citrix distribution partners. I've been working with Citrix in various guises now since about 1999, so way too long to really remember. And Amy and Bytes, we've been working with them for years across a number of technologies, but certainly focusing around the Citrix platform. So what Amy's asked me to do today is just to bring you, Bytes customers, up to speed with the latest announcements that Citrix made at their partner event last month. The Citrix Summit 2015. It was held in Las Vegas, so if you want to go to a place where there's no distractions and you can focus on the technology, then obviously Vegas is that place, right? But we spent 2 or 3 days there being exposed to the technologies that Citrix had acquired or developed or enhanced to really help define their strategy moving forward through 2015. And that's really what I want to talk about over the next 40 to 45 minutes this morning. So before we kind of jump into that, it's probably worthwhile just seeing where Citrix have come from, because even though I've been working with them for such a length of time, it was really interesting to see visually where they've come from as a business. And they were always known, I guess, when they first started in business, as very much a tactical solution for a small subset of users around remote access. So those guys that wouldn't be working within a particular corporate LAN or corporate environment. But around 2003, Citrix changed that tactical approach and started to create this vision of the virtual workplace, giving you access to your application any place, anytime, anywhere. Very much the martini effect for any of you people on the webinar that are old enough to remember those adverts. And because they're all around secure access, they realized that moving forward, there's other components which, as an organization, they really need to now start to consider. And these were things such as application delivery. So giving a user secure access to an application is great, but if the experience is bad, then there isn't much point to it. So application delivery became really important to Citrix, hence the acquisition of an organization called NetScaler. And then they moved on from just the application delivery and virtualizing your apps to thinking, well, actually, we've seen the benefits for organizations of virtualizing applications. We need to broaden this to look at virtualizing everything that we possibly can: applications, desktops, networking, servers. So they really started to look at how they could develop a far more broader approach to virtual computing rather than just virtualizing the application. And then that moved on into the world of mobility, which we're currently in. And over the past year or so, they've really focused around developing their enterprise mobility strategy. But I guess that takes us to a point now whereby Citrix are thinking about, where do we go from here? What's next for us as a business, and what's next, more importantly, for our customers. And I guess where we are today is all around software-defined. It's a phrase that I'm sure everyone on this webinar has come across and heard, especially over the past 6 months or so. It's a real industry buzzword, but from Citrix's perspective, what they're talking about is software-defined means when it's the software that creates the primary experience and business value of a product or a service. So moving away from the reliance on any hardware infrastructure, it's all around the software to give organizations that competitive advantage. And when they're looking at that, they're really looking at, I guess, 3 distinct areas. Workforce engagement is around enabling the kinds of things that are on the minds of CEOs and IT directors and the number of people on this webinar, the line of business leaders. Because organizations are concerned around the workforce engagement, getting more leverage on human capital, making it easier to recruit, onboard and retain the best working talent that's in the industry. And it's around process transformation. So ensuring that organizations can continue to drive business productivity, creating shorter paths and tasks, so I guess we can get things done a lot faster. And it's around the complete reinvention of facilities and offices to make them more collaborative and to gain increased operating efficiency. Very much around what we're doing today. We're in multiple locations, we're still collaborating on a particular message. So this is what Citrix believes the software-defined workplace can do for customers. And they believe that going down this route will derive huge values and huge beneficial outcomes for organizations. And when you look at a software-defined workplace, it's different to software-defining a data center. So I'm sure there are organizations on this webinar today who have defined their software-defined the data center, and that's important. That's around driving operating and technical outcomes and using a lot of physical to virtual types of technologies. And I guess the ultimate software-defined data centers that we can resonate with are the likes of Amazon Web Services and Azure and some of the cloud platform service providers. You don't have to do anything other than consume them. But when you do consume them, they only have one purpose, and it's to manufacture apps and content and get those apps and content off to the user, off to the consumer. And the consumer is based in the workplace. And it's the workplace that Citrix are really focused on, because that's where the people are. And it's the people, the users, that are using these apps and the documents and the data. And so a software-defined workplace is around focusing on business and human outcomes rather than the operating and technical outcomes that a software-defined data center would focus on. So here's the role of XenApp and XenDesktop and XenMobile to provide the workspace services. And then you've got the role of NetScaler and CloudBridge, which is that delivery network, because I guess controlling and managing that particular link is actually the most important and quite often the weakest link generally in the chain of experience. And then thirdly, you have mobility apps like GoToMeeting, ShareFile, and the Works applications, which allow us to effectively communicate and collaborate and use documents in a secure fashion and drive workflow. And then finally, you have the likes of XenServer and the Citrix Cloud Platform. These are core technologies in the Citrix space that support these solutions. So when you pull all of this together, you get 3 very distinct results. You get this delightful and productive experience, you get the kind of contextual and embedded security you need, and you get the anyiness and flexibility of using any device, application, or cloud, which means that services can be made anywhere and people can access and work from anywhere. So this is very much the software-defined workplace for mobility, to transform businesses and people, to provide the kind of experience, security, flexibility needed in this really dynamic world that we're living in today. So that's very much the Citrix approach. It's ensuring that the user gets the experience and access they need to be productive, but at the same time ensuring that from a business perspective, from an IT perspective, they have control and security over what the users are doing. So I just really want to touch now on some of the workspace services, technologies that Citrix spoke about at their event last month. And there are a number of announcements that they made. Some of these technologies will not be in production yet. They will either be in tech preview or in beta phase. So if there's any of these technologies that we touch on shortly that are of any interest to you, then please do speak to your Bytes account manager, and they'll be able to advise you as to when the technologies will be available or how you can actually start to use them in a beta environment. So let's start with XenApp. Still the most powerful way to publish, deliver, secure and manage Windows applications. It always has been, and it's absolutely the bread and butter of what Citrix have done and are continuing to do at the moment. The current version is 7.6. They've made a number of enhancements to this technology. Firstly, around the unmatched speed of access to applications. Because the mobile workspace is becoming the new way in which we're working, application delivery becomes even more important. And so Citrix have increased the speed of access and boot times. And they've virtually eliminated the cost of storage in terms of the performance of storage. That's all around provisioning services, which is their streaming technology that allows computers to be provisioned and reprovisioned in real time from a single shared disk image. And in doing so, administrators can completely eliminate the need to manage and patch individual systems. Instead, all image management is done on the master image. The local hard disk drive of each system can be used for runtime data, caching, or in some scenarios, I guess, removed from the system entirely, which reduces power usage, system failure rates, and security risks. The provisional services solution is based on software streaming technology. So after installing and configuring provisioning services components, a vDisk is created from a device's hard disk by taking a snapshot of the OS, an application image, and then storing that image as a vDisk file on the network. And these vDisks can exist on a provisioning server, a file share, or quite often in larger deployments on a storage system that the provisioning server communicates with. That could be iSCSI, SAN, NAS, and CIFS. And then when that target device is turned on with a provisioning server, you get the increased benefits of delivering a much quicker boot time. You get the benefits of delivering much greater throughput, so the user experience is far greater. And with a provisioning server, unlike thin client technology, processing takes place on the target device, so this drastically reduces the additional storage costs and increased performance. Also with XenApp 7.6, it now fully supports share files, on-demand syncing from your data center or cloud. So certainly from a share file perspective, you've got the secure access now to data and information through XenApp. Simplifies application migration for Windows end of life, and this is very much around the addition of app DNA now within the technology. So you're able to really identify which applications are going to work in your new environment, which applications might need some work in terms of re-engineering, and which applications just aren't going to run in this new virtualized app environment. FIPS compliance and common criteria standards have now been added to XenApp 7.6. So if you're working in a particular industry whereby FIPS is a standard that needs to be adhered to, then that's a big tick in the box. And then there's a number of integrated value adds for XenApp 6.5 features that have been included in 7.6, including tools for migration, but I'll touch on that shortly. Within 7.6, Citrix have brought back session recording. So for those of you that remember Smart Auditor, this is pretty much bringing back Smart Auditor. So it's mainly targeted for troubleshooting, which is where most customers have used Smart Auditor previously. But what it allows you to do is record the on-screen activity of any user's session over any type of connection from any server running XenApp. And it records, catalogs and archives sessions for retrieval and playback. So it uses this flexible policy approach to trigger recordings of XenApp sessions automatically, which enables you guys as the IT function to monitor and examine user activity of applications. This helps to demonstrate internal control. So if you are governed by any kind of regulatory compliance, you can demonstrate that you've followed those standards and you can deliver successful security audits. I guess similarly, Smart Auditor also aids in technical support by speeding problem identification and time to resolution. So I guess when you look at the benefits of Smart Auditor now in 7.6, you've got enhanced auditing for regulatory compliance, powerful activity monitoring, and faster problem resolution. A really good addition now to the 7.6 version of XenApp. Now there's also a new online migration tool that Citrix have announced. And this is going to make things so much simpler and straightforward for organizations that are looking to move from XenApp 6.5 to the latest version, 7.6. And what it does is automatically assesses your current XenApp 6.5 environment in terms of your policies, your configurations, and your settings, and generates a customized tool to create your new XenApp 7.6 environment. So any organizations on the webinar that are looking at, for example, moving from Windows 2003 to 2008 R2 or Windows 2012, this kind of tool will make that migration far more seamless for you and will allow you to bring in the beneficial and the good configurations that you've had in your 6.5 environment to 7.6. Citrix also announced their desktop player for Windows. So they've had their desktop player for Mac, which allows for Mac users to still have that virtualized app-like environment and run applications that are managed centrally but run locally on their Mac. Desktop Player for Windows is exactly the same concept, and it moves away from a destructive install of the machine, so you don't need to remove the OS that's on the current machine. In short, you install a Type 2 hypervisor, which allows you to separate the machine's OS and to deliver a number of applications or stream a number of applications onto that hypervisor, so the user can work in environments whereby they may not have good connectivity, they may not have any connectivity at all, or they're just working in an offline environment. So Desktop Player for Windows is something that people have been asking for some time now, and Citrix have now developed that, and it's in a tech preview phase at the moment. They've also announced great enhancements to working with the Microsoft Lync 2013 platform. This has been something that customers have been speaking to both Microsoft and Citrix about for some time now, how they can actually get the Lync technology to work in a Citrix environment. It's been challenging for Citrix. It's something that they've fully admitted it's been difficult, but with the really close and strong relationship they have with Microsoft, they've been able to get to a point now whereby they've been jointly working together and created these optimizations now for XenApp and XenDesktop for Lync 2013. So XenApp 7.6 is the only solution that can now deliver Lync 2013 to Windows, Linux, and Mac endpoints. And there's a number of features as well which are included in these new optimizations. So you're getting the full functionality of probably the most commonly used IM tool in your virtual environment. Citrix also announced a real leap forward with Framehawk. Now, Framehawk was a company or technology that they acquired over a year ago now. And it had been integrated into HDX. It's now been integrated into HDX Broadcast, which was built on the original ICA architecture. But what it means is you get this better than local experience over lossy networks. So I'll give you a bit more detail around that. So Framehawk takes this, I guess, human-centric approach to dealing with hostile network conditions. So traditionally, the server and the client have this strong relationship to reproduce graphics, and the user has to wait until they finish their conversation. So, for example, if you send a scroll gesture, you have to wait for the screen to finish painting before you regain control. What Framehawk does is put the user first. So the user owns this interaction and the computer is forced to adjust. In order to do this, Framehawk deploys what they term as a human heuristic-driven graphics display system. And what that means in more layman's terms is that the user decides the pace in interaction and the graphics stream adapts through this innovative interruptible graphics layer that maintains a real-time display regardless of network conditions. So the frustrations that users have experienced when working in on connections that aren't particularly strong, so maybe over 3G or from a mobile device, and there's a lot of latency being experienced, this can now be indicated with the Framehawk technology within XenApp. Citrix also spoke about the Citrix Receiver X1, or X first. And this is very much a unification now of one single agent. So one-touch access to your mobile workspace. And it's the receiver that Citrix are really talking about being the receiver that's owned by the end-user organization. So you can make it look like a self-service application store or a tightly controlled corporate web access. Citrix will provide templates and examples of how it can look, but the flexibility now is really owned by the end user. And you can configure the X1 receiver to best support your own employee productivity. So now what we're saying is through this one receiver, you'll have access to your Windows apps and desktops, your Zen mobile or your mobility applications, and device control is managed by the receiver X1 as well. It's going to be consistent across devices, services and versions. So whether people are using virtual Windows apps, SaaS applications, mobile applications, or a mixture of everything, they'll get the same familiar experience that you as a business have designed for them on Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, Chrome or Linux. And I guess what's more, when it comes time to upgrade any of these services, whether it's the receiver, X1, XenApp, XenDesktop, XenMobile, the end user is completely insulated from those changes and they keep seeing the same interface. So from a business perspective, you don't need to retrain users to use this system, and you can negate the need for disruptive service changeovers. So in effect, your users can keep working. And then finally, we've got this dynamic app access. So there's a number of new smart categories that are really easy to configure. You would just tag the application with an appropriate keyword, and it will show up automatically in the correct group of applications or services. Furthermore, these categories features know who you are and what device you're using, the appropriate categories and applications that make sense for your users. For example, if you're in HR using a Windows laptop, you won't see applications for finance, or you won't see mobile applications. And if you look at it, so this new approach now that Citrix have with the X1 receiver means that there's a new X1 enabled storefront whereby you can provide this one-stop consumer-like experience to accessing whatever applications your users need access to, whether it be mobile, native mobile, SaaS, Windows apps, or desktops, in this one portal. And you can create this portal, as I say, to look and feel like it's owned and controlled by your businesses. And you can group applications, you can group desktops, whether by application type or by task type. So if they're productivity applications, then you'd put them all in the productivity bundle, and so on. They're really tailored and focused approach now for users to consume the applications and data that they need. Just want to touch briefly on XenServer 6.5, which is the latest hypervisor platform from Citrix. So they've certainly made a number of enhancements to the technology. You'll see that most of the enhancements they're making are around throughput and speed. So the storage read and writes have been increased by 350% and 175% respectively. There's far more network throughput now with the XenServer technology. So the actual hypervisor itself is running, that can deliver far more throughput. The boot times during peak periods much quicker than before, but I think the thing which is really incredible and has really taken the XenServer technology into onto a new level is 50% more users per vGPU density. Now, what we mean by that is that, as you're well aware, this is all to do with the relationship of graphics rendering. And typically, a standard industry has been that the maximum amount of users you'd get on a vGPU is 64. Now, Citrix can deliver 96 users per vGPU, which is the best amount of density in the industry today. So they've really taken their XenServer technology to a new level, and you'll see that there are so many deployments of XenApp and XenDesktop on XenServer, which means that those deployments and implementations are going to be far better than they are already. So if XenServer is a hypervisor that you haven't looked at yet, then I really recommend it's something that you take some time to invest in and understand how it can benefit your particular XenApp environment. So I guess in summary, from a XenApp and XenServer perspective, there's three key areas in which Citrix have really focused on, and that's around experience with the integration of the Framehawk technology to help quality of service and ensure a great user experience over lossy networks. The receiver X1 for web to unify the different approaches to consuming information and applications, and the XenServer enhancements as well. Security, ensuring that from an IT perspective, they can monitor what users are now doing in their XenApp sessions for troubleshooting, for increasing the time to resolution, and certainly for auditing perspectives. And then there's the DesktopPlayer enhancements and features that they've added. DesktopPlayer for Mac VHD encryption has now been added, and DesktopPlayer for Windows has now been introduced. So giving users this ability to work in an offline environment whilst IT is still maintaining a centralized management and control. And finally, flexibility. So receivers now for Chrome and HTML5. Optimization packs for Linux and Mac. And Linux virtual desktops, which is something I haven't touched on today. But if a Linux virtual desktop is an area of interest to you, then again, please do speak to your Bytes account manager, and we can furnish you with more information on that. An area in which Citrix have spent a lot of time, a lot of research and development revenues on is certainly been their Zen Mobile technology. And you know, Zen Mobile, it is the industry's leading, I guess, comprehensive enterprise mobility management solution for apps, data, and devices. And ever since they released Zen Mobile 9, which really put a lot of emphasis on the experience, it's taken off dramatically. And certainly we've seen, or Citrix have seen, that there are now 10 million plus devices under the management for secure delivery of apps and data on the Zen Mobile platform. So it's really taken off in the past 12 months especially, and the future is looking fantastic from the Zen Mobile perspective. If you look at the analysts who are talking to people such as yourselves, who are talking to customers, who are doing analytics, they're all saying the same kind of thing, that Citrix leads the way in enterprise mobility management. We're all aware that there are vendors out there that actually perhaps do elements of mobility management, around MDM perhaps, or around sandboxing of one or two line of business applications. But there isn't another vendor on the planet that can deliver this end-to-end enterprise mobility management solution. And that's something that Citrix are extremely proud of, and an area in which they are continuing to invest heavily on. Hence why Zen Mobile 10 was announced during the event at Las Vegas. So Zen Mobile 9 was always a really big deal, but they're moving forward and they're investing big around Zen Mobile 10. So they're spending more time on the front end to make that mobile app experience even more smooth for users, more seamless, more people-centric. They've added a huge amount of security to the infrastructure, including FIPS encryption standards, which I touched on earlier on. And they've added this new capability with ShareFile, with restricted storage zones for enhanced data protection. So while ShareFile delivers data to users irrelevant of where they are, you can now store this data in specific areas which you've agreed and you know exactly where they are. So from a compliance perspective, it adds to that it adds a much greater level of security. And then finally, they're spending a lot of time on the control plane, on the back end, getting the MDM and MAM functions integrated together so that you can deliver this much faster time to value to your users. And as you look at that, so you have this simplified and unified management now. You can see that there's an integrated single console for both the MDM and MAM technologies. So you get things now like a policy in one place that can be applied to all devices, whether it's iOS, Android, and Windows. In previous versions, you'd need to go into the management console and you'd go to the policy configurator. You then need to choose what platform you were looking to configure, and it would list a drop-down menu of the various configurations that you could apply and the different policies you could apply. Now, you set the policy and it applies it to the platform, irrelevant of what that platform is. So a much smoother approach to actually configuring policies. They've included a self-service portal and a role-based access control. So dependent on the role you play within the business will depend on the view and the access rights and the abilities you have within Zen Mobile. So very much helping to remove the individual steps of individual policy creation. It's done very much on role-based access now. And there are now external and simple HA and DR configs as well. So they've really focused on enhancing organizations to be able to deploy a business continuity strategy for their mobile environments. They've also enhanced and will continue to enhance their suite of Works apps. So those applications that Citrix have designed, which are purely tailored for mobile users, so for the mobile strategy of your businesses. WorksMail, for example, still this really secure and incredible email client which sits on the user's device and allows them to have an Outlook-like experience, for example. And one of the enhancements which they've added to WorksMail, and something that is pretty close to my heart, is having the ability to set your out of office from your mobile phone. WorksWeb, the WorksWeb application has been enhanced, and it allows secure access to for browsing your company's intranet. So using the MDX technologies, it will provide a secure connection back to the data center resources, purely to the intranet resources, and allow you as a user to securely access intranet resources from your mobile device. And share file still is being enhanced. Still the #1 solution for secure delivery and control of data within the enterprise. But the Citrix WorksApp suite is increasing, and there are other technologies such as WorksEdit, WorksNotes, and WorksDesktop, which are all around allowing users to be more productive, allowing users to introduce more applications that they use on a daily, weekly basis into their mobile environments, but still giving their security and control back to IT. So then Mobile 10, the user and admin experience, far better than it ever has been, far more seamless from a user perspective, and far easier to control from an IT administrator's perspective. The security is much stronger, and the setup time has actually been reduced by 75%. So Citrix has spent an awful lot of time and money investing in removing the configuration steps to set up the technology. And I think it's fair to say that in previous versions of Zen Mobile, the setup time has been frustrating at times. That has now been removed. And with a 75% less setup time, it gives you, as organizations deploying this technology, far more time to get on and do the proactive stuff that you want to be doing, rather than spending time installing and configuration and configuring solutions. So some really great enhancements and improvements to the Zen Mobile 10 technology. So as we kind of come to an end, I just wanted to talk about something slightly different. I just wanted to touch on VDI and what Citrix are doing around this particular space. So Citrix got into the VDI game back with the launch of XenDesktop 3, actually. And it was literally just putting a hosted image of a Windows machine on a server. But as I'm sure we've all seen and experienced, it can be costly, can be complex, and it can be quite difficult to do. And in reality, it really serves just a narrow segment of the marketplace. So Citrix have responded with a way to serve. So Citrix responded with a way to serve the customer by changing the conversation from virtual desktop infrastructure to desktop virtualization. Because with desktop virtualization, you get a FlexCast approach, which allows multiple delivery methods to users, rather than with VDI, which is one size doesn't fit all. But there have been a lot of innovations and inventions, I guess, by Citrix and by other partners that have helped to deliver a much greater VDI experience. And the cost and complexity of VDI, we've certainly seen, has been coming down over the past years. But the interest, coincidentally, has started to rise. So what Citrix have realized that they weren't perhaps serving the VDI market as best as they possibly could. So in order to get to that point, they've added some additional capabilities into the technologies. Some of them we've discussed. But one of those is to actually touch storage in a way that's sensitive, I guess, to the workload. And therefore, as a result, they announced the acquisition of a company called Sambolic. Now, Sambolic, I'm a Citrix Ready partner for a number of years anyway, so there was a close relationship there. And what Sambolic does, and it's, I guess, at a high level, is workload-oriented storage virtualization. So what do I mean by that? Well, it's all around a set of technologies that provides non-blocking read-write to storage. So it's really has non-stop availability because it handles all kinds of radix, and that's even in a geo-clustered kind of environment, which is the kind of environments that we see more often now. And it provides a range of tier 1 data services like snapshotting, deduping, compression, and it handles workload-specific quality of service. So if you want to give certain workloads priority over others, that's all built in. It handles, as I mentioned, geo-clustering, which we're seeing far more now, so that if you have multiple nodes, let's say in a metro environment, and you want to tie them all together in a singly managed cluster, it enables a geo-cluster architecture. It's completely storage agnostic. So it works with the recognized storage vendors in the market space today and their products. And it works with NAS and SAN that's already out there, and any spinning disk, any SSD, any flash storage. And it's very much workload-oriented storage virtualization. So it's focused on ensuring workload availability, reliability, and performance. And with this technology, what Citrix are doing is they're building a pre-engineered, pre-configured system so that as an organization, you can spend less time setting up and configuring and more time connecting these systems to, well, the solutions that allow your users and you as a business to be more competitive, to drive a much better user experience, I guess, and to increase security. So Citrix have introduced something called the Citrix WorkSpace pod, which is basically pre-configured software around the workspace solutions. And they've announced, to start with, the WorkSpace pod, powered by HP, and the WorkSpace pod, powered by Dataron. So the HP platform is very much there for scalability and flexibility. As an organization, if you're looking to grow significantly in the future, then the pod powered by HP is probably the route you would take. Alternatively, if you're looking at simplicity and affordability, then perhaps it's the Dataron technology that you'd look to implement. But they're both pre-integrated, pre-engineered with the Citrix WorkSpace stack. So XenApp, XenDesktop, XenMobile. And what it allows you to do is get this solution, plug it into your rack, switch it on. It's been pre-configured. You load the relevant policies that you want. You configure the policies that are right for your business, and you will have a fledged enterprise mobility offering ready to go. So that's all that I really wanted to touch on at a high level with yourselves. Just speed with where Citrix are and what their focus is on moving forward. As Amy mentioned at the top of the presentation, we do have LJ Martin from Citrix on the line. So I would invite any questions that you might have around the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer them. So Amy, I'll hand back to you.
Brilliant, thanks David. Okay, so yeah, as mentioned, if you do have any questions, if you just pop those in the questions box, which is at the right-hand side of your screen, David or LJ will be able to answer those for you shortly. So we have a question here from Daniel, who said, thanks for the information. And he said, what is the expected release date for the new receiver?
So Amy, I'll take that. So it's Lynn, John, or LJ from Citrix. We currently don't have an estimated release date for that, but I would expect that we would have something coming out at some point this year.
LJ, sorry, you're breaking up slightly.
Preview or something like that.
LJ,
To
can you hear me?
give you an example, we pushed out a new version of Receiver called R1. Can you hear me better now?
There's kind of an echo to your voice.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you not hear me?
No, you sound like a bit of a robot at the moment. Are you using the mic and speaker?
Okay, well, look, I guess, yeah, Daniel, we can hear that question. It might be better if we take that one offline and just drop a mail through your account manager to respond to that one.
Okay. Okay, so Daniel, yep, thanks for the question. We'll get back to you later on today.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, Andrew's asked if the slides will be available, and yes, so I'll send you the recording afterwards. I'll send that this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, of course.
Is this any better?
Make the slides available.
There's still a bit of an echo.
Just actually going back to that.
I'm not too sure what's causing it. Sorry about that. I popped a message into the chat window to the two of you.
Oh, that's
want to read and
you sound perfect now.
Okay. So X1 is X1 for Receiver X1 essentially is our long-term release and strategy around a single unified agent. Currently, we've actually released something called R1 in the app stores, which is going to go hand in hand with, goes hand in hand with X1 X1 mouse. Which is actually a prototype mouse from Citrix that we launched at the beginning of this year, which you may or may not be aware of. So as you can see, we're starting to actually bring out releases to head towards our goal of X1 essentially. In terms of the release date, it's essentially TBC at the moment.
Thanks, Lyndon. Okay, so we have a question here from Ben. Who has asked, are there any new promotions for XenApp or Desktop?
Promotions in terms, can you be a bit more specific? Is it around licensing promotions, I guess? If that's the case, then yes, there are some promotions around that. There's some documentation around what those promotions are, but it's certainly to do with organizations that are using existing platforms and looking to move away from them to XenApp. Organizations that are looking to introduce some kind of mobility strategy, so particularly devices such as Chromebooks, etc. So there are a number of incentives and promotions that Citrix have. What we'll do is I'll provide them to Amy, and then she'll ask the account manager to get those over to you in black and white. Ben.
Okay, thanks, David. So you have a question here from Andrew, who's asked about the Citrix WorkSpace pod. Is this available now for POC work?
Okay, I'll hand that to LJ if he's on the line.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, fine.
So the WorkSpace pod at the current moment, the only product that I'm aware of around any release around that is going to be HP Moonshot. So I don't know if the number of users in your organization warrants having an HP Moonshot. In terms of the actual hardware appliances, we should see some more information coming out around that over the next, between this quarter and next quarter essentially. That's all I can tell you at the moment. But if you want to have a look at some information around WorkSpace pod, if you type into Google HP Moonshot WorkSpace pod, you'll actually come across a reference architecture that actually discusses and goes through the terminology and what they actually do around HP Moonshot with the WorkSpace pod.
Thanks, LJ. So you have a question here from Nikki, who's asked, is ShareFile available without deployment of Zen Mobile?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. You can purchase ShareFile completely on its own, or or it's bundled as part of Zen Mobile Enterprise only. However, I'd caveat that with saying when you do get ShareFile within Zen Mobile Enterprise, you do not get any cloud storage. You do have the entitlement to use cloud storage.
Lyndon,
You need to purchase that independently directly with ShareFile.com.
Lyndon, I don't think, sorry LJ, I don't think much of that was heard because you've been breaking up slightly.
Okay. In summary, yes, ShareFile can be deployed as a standalone solution. You don't need to invest in the Zen Mobile technology. So if you're looking at securing data for multiple users across different locations, then yeah, ShareFile is a standalone technology.
Thanks, David. So Andrew has asked, DesktopPlayer for Windows, is this using Zen Client, and when is it due out of tech preview? Is Lyndon there?
Okay.
LJ or?
You have a view on that, LJ?
Yeah, so it's not Zen Client in any way, shape or form. It leverages and uses another technology that allows us to install a Type 2 hub bars on top of Windows or Mac OS X, which is completely hardened.
Okay.
Is that right?
Thanks, LJ.
Yeah, and when do you expect to have the DesktopPlayer for Windows available for production release?
So again, that's going to be TBC. I don't have a date on that, but you can sign up for a tech preview today if you go to citrix.com/DesktopPlayer. It will then redirect you to the Podio site, which our product management team keep a handle on. So if you want to try that, you're more than welcome to go there. I'll send some information to Amy and David, which we can circulate to everyone on the webinar.
That's great. Okay, thanks.
Brilliant, thank you. So Andrew said, I asked the question, what would Zen Mobile give me that Microsoft Intune with SCCM 2012 doesn't?
So, David, I don't know if you've got more experience around Microsoft's offering. I can only really talk about the Citrix offering.
Yeah, so we haven't really. Our focus has been around the Citrix piece, and to be honest with you, we haven't come up against the Intune bit from Microsoft in pretty much any of our deployments to date. So we haven't been in a competitive situation. So it's a difficult one to answer that. If there was any particular areas in which the customer felt that the Microsoft platform wasn't able to deliver for them, and they wanted it to, then perhaps we could look at how Zen Mobile can address those. But yeah, we haven't really come up against the Microsoft bit. So I guess if the customer does have any specific areas that he's interested in, then if he likes, if you want to put them on an email to you, Amy, and then we can perhaps pick that up with him.
Yes, yeah, or on the feedback form as well, that'd be brilliant.
On the feedback form, yeah, of course.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have one more here. So this is from Nikki, who's asked, does DesktopPlayer allow for virtual machines to be used offline?
That is available on your laptop or your Mac, corporate apps and desktops. Did you not hear me there?
Can you just repeat?
No, sorry. Do you want to
repeat that?
repeat
Sorry.
that?
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. So yes, virtual machines are available offline. So essentially, you will boot up your PC or Mac and you can then get access to that secure virtual machine, which is controlled and pushed down by IT, and you can get access to all your corporate apps.
So certainly where there's a demand for offline virtual environment, that's the main use case for the desktop player technology. So yes, in answer to Nikki's question.
Okay. So we have another question here from Andrew, who said, do you have a link or some information about the Linux virtual desktop?
Yes, we can send something through.
I can add that to the follow-up email that I send out this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Okay, and one more here. So this is from Neil. So I said it'd be really good to know how many users use. It'd be really good to know how many users the Citrix pods, both the HP and data on ones, can scale to.
So those benchmarking numbers will come out when the documentation actually comes out. If you want to have a look today around HP, I'll send out a link that includes the HP Moonshot WorkSpace pod, which covers off, I think, both XenApp and XenDesktop from what I can remember.
Thanks, LJ. So another question from Andrew, who said, X1 enabled storefront. Is this another release of storefront up to 2.6?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Right, so I think it looks like that's all the questions we have today. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining today, and thanks LJ and David for presenting. And if you could please fill out the feedback form at the end of the webinar, we'll find that really, really useful. If you would like some more information, just pop that in the feedback form. Okay, so thanks everyone for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.